Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Wednesday, July 24th. Hopefully, everybody is having a good day so far today. Yesterday was report day for the New York Jets, and today officially signaled the first training camp practice of the 2024 summer. And exciting times to be a football fan. Training camp is here. The players, the Jets, were out there this afternoon at One Jets Drive, and we'll continue this, obviously, throughout the rest of the summer. Camp season is officially upon us. It is here. We've got a training camp practice to react to. We will break down all angles of today's practice. We'll also get to some press conference notes as well. Salah, Rodgers, Sauce, Quincy Williams all spoke to the media today. So we'll break some of those quotes down, give you all the updates from New York Jets training camp day number 1, practice number 1. Fired up to be out there tomorrow for the first open practice to the public. I will be there tomorrow, Saturday, and Tuesday. So really looking forward to getting out to One Jets Drive. Training camp is one of my most favorite times of the year. And these are some of my most favorite videos to make during the NFL New York Jets season. This is episode 332 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. If you haven't checked it out, this is actually our second episode of the day. This morning was the Wednesday edition of the New York Jets player previews, our second installment. I took a look at Morgan Moses and DJ Reed. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out. For those of you tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe as well. Always, before we begin, let me tell you about our podcast partners over at SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an app that delivers tickets from all over the internet and puts it into one spot to make it easier for you, the buyer. What makes SeatGeek so great and what separates them from other ticket companies is they rate each ticket, rate each deal from 0 to 10, so you know if you are getting a good deal or not. Green means good. Yellow means okay, you could do better. Red means bad. So when you head over to SeatGeek, click the link in the description down below. Use promo code Bubs on Sports for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that is promo code Bubs on Sports for $20 off. Click the link in the description down below to download the SeatGeek app and get yourself out to some events. This isn't just sports. SeatGeek, anything, plays, concerts, shows, whatever you could think of. If you could buy a ticket for an event, SeatGeek has it. Use promo code Bubs on Sports for $20 off your purchase. Also, Huga House. You've seen me rock my Huga House hat on the show often. You want to get the hat I rock all the time, or one of the hats that Aaron Rodgers is rocking. Aaron Rodgers rolling up to training camp yesterday, rocking his Huga House hat, or even Shane Gillis, even Shohei Ohtani, JT Realmuto, Tyler Conklin, many other athletes and celebrities rock the Huga House hats. Click the link in the description down below. That'll take you to the Huga House store. And at purchase or at checkout, use promo code Bubs for 15% off your purchase and get yourself some swag, some of the same swag that QB1 Aaron Rodgers, who was out there today for his first training camp practice this afternoon at One Jets Drive. Now let's get into today's practice. So obviously day number 1, no pads the first couple days with the rules and all that stuff with the NFLPA and all those rules. No pads for the first couple days. So little bit more of it's like a more of a higher physicality OTA practice in a way. It kind of has that feel of not quite OTA practice, a little bit more physical than that, but no pads. So you still have to kind of take some of these things with, not put too much stock into some of what we were seeing. But there were some big headlines. There were some big performances this afternoon out of a couple of guys that we will highlight. We'll obviously start here on offense. We'll start with Rodgers. We'll start with the quarterbacks, and then we'll move on to some of the other biggest headlines coming out of today's practice. So it's actually funny. Aaron Rodgers' first completion, the first play of training camp for the New York Jets in 2024 was to Allen Lazard, a really nice 20-yard completion. Later on in practice, Aaron Rodgers delivered on the last play of practice day number 1. He had a touchdown to Allen Lazard and a really, really nice grab by Lazard in the red zone during the red zone drills. And what a start for Allen Lazard. I know it's only 2 catches. We all understand that, but it's kind of crazy to think, right? All of us crushing him all off season. This feels like the summer of Allen Lazard is officially upon us. He had a really, really big day today. Rodgers had obviously the plays to Lazard. He was also getting Xavier Valladay involved in the 7-on-7 drills. Ruckert, he got involved. He got Garrett Wilson involved twice. Braylon Allen. So overall in 7-on-7 drills, he was 4 for 4. So very efficient there. And then he went 6 for 6 overall on some of the early team stuff combined with the 7-on-7 drills and in the other team drills as well. Now, he did have that touchdown to Lazard. Red zone wasn't as smooth for this Jets offense. Rodgers went 2 for 7 in the red zone. There was some drops mixed in there, so not all of it was on him, but obviously still knocking off some of the rust. So overall on the day, if you combine all of the, I guess everything combined, Rodgers went roughly around 12 of 17 or so at his first day of camp practice 2024 and was spreading the ball around. A lot of what the Jets did today, and I think you're going to see a lot of that early here in camp, it was a lot of short stuff, short, quick passes, easy completions, things like that, getting the ball to the running backs, Braylon Allen, Xavier Valladay. He also got him the ball in the flat a couple times. Ruckert, some of these kind of short routes across the middle, these mesh routes, nothing too crazy, not stretching the field a ton early on, just a lot of those short, quick passes, easy completions, build chemistry, and really kind of build the groundwork and foundation for the rest of the summer. Tyrod also had a touchdown to Irv Charles in the red zone. Andrew, the summer of Peasley, did not quite get off to, I guess, the start that some of us thought it would, right? Peasley's going to get a lot of action this summer in the preseason games, but not a whole lot from him today in day number 1. But Tyrod did have the touchdown to Irvin Charles, who did not have a great practice otherwise. Had a couple bad routes, suffered a drop, but he did finish strong there with the touchdown to red zone drill. So one of those special teams guys, depth receiver, not really much in their picture as a receiver, more so a special teams weapon for this Jets team, but found the back of the end zone today. So those were your main quarterback takeaways from the New York Jets. Rodgers to Lazard was the hottest connection of the day. And then, of course, getting the ball to Garrett Wilson 2 times was good to see in 7-on-7 drills, and even Tyrod slinging it a little bit to Irv Charles in red zone drills as well. On to the running backs. Breece and Braylon Allen. Just mentioned how Allen was getting involved in the passing game. They were both getting involved very well in the run game. Breece early on had a couple really good runs to open camp, so he looked good. He started the day on working on the side field, but then ended up being fine. He ended up going out there working in team drills. He was obviously a little banged up in OTAs, dealing with some lower body stuff. Wasn't much of a concern. So it felt like today they were kind of easing him into things early on in practice. But by the end of practice and by the start of team drills, he was working in fine at a full capacity in team drills and all that stuff, and broke out a couple nice runs, him and Braylon Allen. So you kind of got an early sign of that 1-2 punch and what they can do together. And we got a glimpse of it during OTAs of what Braylon Allen is capable of and what Breece Hall can do and how they can't complement each other so well. Is a really, really exciting tandem to watch. And you saw some of those consistently good runs out of both those guys once again today. And I talked about Valladay as a guy that got involved a little bit in the flat in some of the team drills from Rodgers working with the first team. And Xavier Valladay seems like a guy that is kind of highly regarded. And I know it's only day 1 of training camp, and some of these guys move up and down, play first team, play third team. They kind of fluctuate just to get guys reps. And as camp rolls on, you'll see more kind of consistent rotations. But Valladay is a guy that was used a lot during OTAs, got some first team reps during OTAs, and in today, day 1 of training camp, first team reps, and did well with his first team reps, had a couple good runs, was involved in the passing game. So a name to watch out for, right? You look at the running back room, Breece, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis are kind of your 3 set running backs. But for that fourth running back spot, you kind of it's up in the air, right? You have Izzy Abinaconda, you have Tariq Cohen, the veteran you signed during OTAs, and then you also have Valladay as well, who is another name to now keep an eye on. So you really have, it feels like, three guys fighting for that final fourth running back spot. But Valladay seems to maybe have a little bit of a inside track right now because he's gotten a lot of first team reps over the last couple months going back to the spring and the offseason workouts. So definitely something to continue to keep an eye on. Izzy had a couple strong runs today, had a couple strong plays, but he's working with the third team. And it's just weird. Like, Izzy has not seen any first, second team time. Even in OTAs, he was working pretty much strictly with the third team. And that was OTAs where they really, really rotate guys, first team, second team, third team. They rotate guys a lot. He's barely even sniffed first team reps at all in some of these practices. And today was the same case. So it feels like right now, Braylon Allen, of course, and Breece Hall are your dead set 1-2 punch. And then some other guys as well, like Valladay was getting first team reps, Allen getting first team reps. You know, we've even seen Tariq Cohen during OTAs. He was getting some of those first team reps. And here is Izzy kind of stuck on the third team. I think that tells you a lot of where this coaching staff kind of views Izzy right now. And again, a guy that I think is a very possible cut candidate for this New York Jets team as camp rolls on here. But we will see. It still is early. But seeing Valladay continue to emerge and seeing some of these other guys continue to get reps and Izzy get kind of stuck on the third team is, you know, I think it shows that his roster spot is not really secure at all. So just some of those more interesting takeaways. I think the running back room is going to be something I'm very interested to follow the rest of camp. Not so much the performances, but outside of Breece and Braylon Allen, who is getting first team, second team reps? Where is Izzy slotting in at practice? You know, very well possible. I go out there tomorrow, I see Izzy getting first team reps. That's possible because they rotate a lot. But right now, he seems pretty buried on the depth chart. Moving on to the wide receivers, we already noted about Allen Lazard, had the first completion of camp, first reception of camp, I should say. He also had the touchdown reception from Rodgers in the red zone on the final play. So a little bit of a rough red zone drill for the starting offense, but otherwise finished strong. So that was good. Good day for Lazard. Look, you got to give him credit. It's day one of training camp. We will do about, I don't even know how many more episodes of these. We'll have an episode after each practice. So a lot more episodes. We will see what happens with Allen Lazard, but I don't think it's crazy to say, and I get it's day one, I'm not overreacting, but if you want to look at it from glass half full, I don't think it's crazy to say, and I've said this for a while now, he can't be any worse than he was last year. He can only be better. That's how bad he was last season, and you just hope Aaron Rodgers is getting something out of him where he is more focused with him. Rodgers is talking to him. There's more communication, and he's dialed in and he's locked in because last year he gave up. And you know he's not going to give up on Rodgers because if you give up on Rodgers, you're never going to see the field. And I think part of that, Lazard knows that. He was successful in Green Bay, came to the Jets, Rodgers got hurt, lost focus. I think Rodgers maybe keeps him mentally locked in. And hopefully that's the case because if Mike Williams, who was working on the side field today, and we'll kind of sprinkle in these injury updates as we go here, we already mentioned Breece was working on the side field. He did do team drills, so he's fine. Mike Williams, who's on the PUP list, was working on the side field as well. He is moving along well, moving along the same timeline as Breece Hall, but how will he look to start the season is a question. And if he starts the season a little slow, coming out of a torn ACL, coming out of the gate, Lazard's going to be relied on a little bit more. And these practices hopefully give a little bit more confidence that maybe he can have a okay season with Rodgers. That's the hope. But today was a good start, and you got to give him credit. I know it's only camp. I know it's only practice, but this is all we got right now. That's all we got. So good day for Lazard. Like I said, Irv Charles, not going to take a too deep dive in Irv Charles, but he had a couple poor reps in the 7-on-7 drills, had a bad route, then had a drop, but then had the touchdown reception from Tyrod in the red zone. So finished strong there. Garrett Wilson had the 2 receptions from Rodgers in the 7-on-7 drills. And then Gibson, not that we really care, but this was would have been a touchdown. Rodgers put it on his chest perfectly. Gibson dropped it. So Rodgers could have had 2 touchdowns in red zone drills, but it's day one. I'm not going to kill a guy for a drop. Tight end stuff. Mention Ruckert. First reception in 7-on-7 drills. So Rodgers found him early on in the afternoon today. Didn't really hear much about any of the other tight ends, really just Ruckert. So Ruckert, this is a big camp for him. I feel it's a very important camp for Ruckert to prove to this team that he can legitimately be a number 2 threat behind Tyler Conklin, and it not be the case where when Conklin's off the field, there is no pass-catching threat from the tight end position with Ruckert, Yeboah, and Kuntz. So I think Ruckert, if he puts together a good camp, that gives you a lot of confidence that when Conklin's not on the field, he can be more than just a blocker and more than just, that kind of player, not actually turn into a legitimate pass-catching and a route-running threat. Some offensive line notes. Moses and AVT were working, kind of doing some of their own drills, working in the side area, did do some individual stuff. Moses was working on the side. AVT, I believe, was doing some of the individual stuff. They were kind of rotating in and out, but they weren't at practice. And Salah said that they will be at practice here soon. They will be in team drill soon. Moses, of course, working back from the torn pec, and AVT working back from the torn Achilles. So the starting O-line today included Wes Schweitzer at guard and Max Mitchell at tackle. Fashanu was at left tackle with the second team, and then everybody else was in their normal place. So that is kind of your offensive line update. Moses and AVT, they'll be back soon. We're both working on their own, did some of their own stuff. They'll get back into the fold here soon. That was just, again, day one of camp. They're easing them back into things. Now defensively. And I want to start here defensively, right? We've got the offense cleaned up here. I got to start defensively with Quantez Stiggers. Quantez Stiggers, interception today against Andrew Peasley in 7-on-7 drills. The first interception of camp. Man, oh man, is this guy quickly becoming one of the not only cool stories, but one of the underrated stories for this New York Jets team, is a guy that can maybe play a role this year on this team, and a serious role on this team, and a successful role on this team as a depth piece in that cornerback room. Quantez Stiggers had a very good OTAs, very, very good OTAs. Got a lot of rave reviews from his teammates, coaches, looked really good. And we know training camp's a different beast, right? Things get a little more physical. It, speed-wise picks up a little bit. The joint practices, the preseason games, that'll all be really good evaluation for Quantez Stiggers, really good reps for him to get out there in live NFL action here in the coming weeks. But day one of training camp, first interception of camp, every year you always wonder, all right, who's going to throw the first touchdown? Who's going to catch the first touchdown? Who's going to get the first sack? Who's going to get the first interception? Well, we found out first interception, Quantez Stiggers. It's awesome to see him doing well. And look, I'm not saying this guy's going to be an all-pro in 2 years, but the early signs are that what he has shown you is the Jets really, it feels like, maybe has got a steal here in the 5th round. A guy that was playing in the fan-controlled football league, then played in the CFL. His background, of course, is a very, very just motivational story of how he had some of the struggles and his dad passing away and then having to quit football and provide for his family and then coming back to football, signing up for the fan-controlled football league. His mom signed him up. He won, I think, Defensive Player of the Year there, then goes to the CFL, wins their version of the Rookie of the Year and has a great season there and all that stuff. And now here he is with the Jets, and he's these last 3 months, going back to the offseason stuff, the minute he was drafted, he's been very impressive. And again, he's not going to play a huge role this year, but in a depth role, it seems like this is a guy that New York will really be able to trust this season and even moving forward. You look at the future, 2025. The New York Jets, the way their cornerback room is currently constructed, you have 2 guys set to hit the open market next season. Michael Carter and DJ Reed. You're not probably going to be able to bring both of those guys back. So in the event you only sign one of them and the other guy goes elsewhere, Quantez Stiggers could look potentially at a starting role in 2025. Potentially. And I know that's way, way down the road. But the early signs, the moment he's been drafted, is the Jets maybe have got a steal here. And there's still a lot that needs to happen. He still needs to prove a lot. These are just practices. I get that. But for a 5th-round pick and everything he's been through, it's really cool to see a guy like this really kind of blossom early on here as one of the more cool and really underrated players through the offseason into camp. That's how good he's been. So Stiggers today had a really good day, and that was good to see. The interception was really good, and you saw, the DBs love him. The team loves him. He's well respected around the locker room. Everything he's been through, just a really, really easy guy to root for, and it's cool to see him having some of this success early on. And if he continues this, right, he'll play a quality depth role this year, and then you maybe look at a starting role next year. Now that's way down the road, but he has really started with the right foot. He's gotten off to the right start, and he continues to look really good. So Stiggers interception today. As for the rest of the cornerback room, JBC, Jarek Bernard-Converse had a PBU versus Irv Charles. That was thrown from Tyrod during second-team drills. Tony Adams almost had an interception in red zone drills against Rodgers. So a good start there for the safety. Tight window throw from Rodgers. Tony Adams almost jumped it and picked it off. And then Michael Carter II had a couple really was really good in coverage on a couple of Rodgers' throws in red zone drills. So a couple of your coverage, cornerback, safety notes there. We'll just move down the list. And then D-line wise, not a whole lot from the linebackers today. You didn't really get much there. So D-line wise, Eric Watts, who is a UDFA that I've talked about, somebody to look out for. He had a pressure on Peasley, who couldn't get the pass off, pushed him out of the pocket. Peasley had to throw it away. Maybe in a real game, again, I wasn't there. This is just based off the beat reporters. Potentially in a real game, it could have been a sack because obviously you're not going to, can't sack the quarterback in training camp. So it's possible that this would have been a sack in a real game. But either way, Eric Watts fighting for that, maybe one of those final edge spots potentially, or at least fighting to maybe make a mark and get into this team get on this team on the practice squad. Had a good start there. The UDFA out of UConn. Lecky Fotu had a really, really good day today. Had to run stuff during second team drills. And then him and Jalen Holmes blew up a red zone play during second team red zone as well. So working with the second team, but a really strong day for him. I've always kind of considered Fotu as a replacement for Al Woods, that big body run stuffer that can clog the middle. And he had 2 plays today where he completely clogged the middle and blew up the play. One of those in red zone, the other in regular team drills. So that is definitely a positive sign to see him get off to a good start today at One Jets Drive. Something that I thought was really interesting. For the majority of today, Michael Clemens was working with the first team at edge. And then Jermaine Johnson was working with the starters, which I thought was really, really interesting because you would think, and this was one of the, I guess, silver linings of the Reddick situation, if you wanted to find one, would be that Will McDonald would get the chance to get first team reps when Reddick was out. But that wasn't the case today. Michael Clemens was your edge on the opposite side of Jermaine Johnson. Obviously no surprise, Jermaine Johnson starting edge on the first team, but then it was Michael Clemens. And for the majority of today, Will McDonald had second team reps, was running with the second team. He did have a pass deflection against Rodgers in red zone drills. But other than that, it was second team reps for Will McDonald today. So that is definitely something that I'm going to look for tomorrow at camp when I'm there, and I'll have my own eyes on everything. I'm very interested to see if McDonald is working with the second team tomorrow, or if he is working with the first team, or if this is just something they're rotating guys, right? Getting Clemens some reps, going to get McDonald some reps while Hassan Reddick is out. But you would think, you would like to see McDonald have a camp similar to the one Jermaine Johnson had last year. If you remember, Jermaine Johnson had a great camp last year. Every single practice, it felt like he was doing something productive, whether it was stopping the run or getting to the quarterback, it literally felt like every single practice he was going to have a what would be a sack in a real game. Every practice, it felt like that. And you would hope to get the same thing out of Will McDonald. It was a quiet day, number one. Again, only day one, only July 24th. But I found that a little head scratching that Michael Clemens who I don't even think is a lock for the roster. In my opinion, he wouldn't be a lock for the roster. I know the Jets really like him as a special teams guy, but to get starting reps over Will McDonald, a guy who you need to see development this camp. So we'll see how that develops, but an interesting headline over through the first day here on the defensive line. So those are your main practice takeaways. I think some of your biggest headlines are, of course, Lazard, Quantez Stiggers, and then Michael Clemens starting over Will McDonald was a little strange and something that I'm curious to see if the Jets are just rotating them. They see it as, hey, no Reddick. Let's get Clemens and McDonald reps with the first team because why not? But we'll see. One other injury note. Jordan Travis was working on the side field today as well. He's, of course, on the non-football injury list, so I don't know how long he will be out. We will see, but he was working on the side field as well. All right, now on to some of the press conferences, and then we'll close things out here for day number 1, and we'll be back here, of course, for day number 2 tomorrow with my own in-person takeaways from One Jets Drive. Robert Salah, will start with him. He spoke to the media. This is what he had to say on Hassan Reddick. He says, it is what it is. We have 89 other guys we have to prepare, and he talked about some other possible outcomes with the Reddick situation if he's concerned with his football shape and all that stuff.
What was your reaction to him not showing up?
It is what it is. That's the business part of it. Just have 89 other guys that we got to prepare.
How much is he missing, though, like to not being here for any of it to this point, the OTAs too?
He's a veteran. He's been with multiple teams. He's played multiple positions. He's had success multiple different ways. At this point in his career, I'm sure he knows exactly what he needs to do to prepare himself to play football, and so I'm not overly concerned.
I mean, like when he might show up?
No.
So that last part was also interesting on top of course, saying it is what it is, kind of downplaying it. He kind of did the same thing during OTAs, was downplaying it, sort of. It feels like promoting the stance that has been reported that the Jets are in, where they're not going to give him a contract until he reports. That's what it feels like Salah's kind of saying. 2 days in, he's already paid $100,000 in fines, $50,000 each day. And I told you guys yesterday, I did the math. That's $2 million if he misses the entirety of camp. So something will get done. But the last part was interesting of, do you know if he's going to come? When he's going to come? He's like, no, he has no clue. So we really have no clue. Reddick might show up one day and do one of these sit-ins and stuff like that, but it is a legitimate contract holdout. Two sides are at an impasse where, the Jets want a Band-Aid deal. They want to do what they felt, what was reported Reddick told him he would do, which is a potential Band-Aid contract, and then go into camp. And then if he performs well, do what they did to JFM in 2021, where they would then give him a long-term lucrative contract extension in the offseason or during the season, week 4, week 5, early on. Reddick said, okay, somewhere along the line that has now switched. Reddick's stance is, I want money and I want it now. And it doesn't seem like he wants a Band-Aid contract either. So very interesting situation. Salah's not going to go up there and say a ton about it, but we'll see. He doesn't really know what the deal is, Reddick, if he's going to return or not. So he said the same thing during OTAs. He said, I expect him to be at minicamp. He wasn't there. He goes along with the cliche of he's a veteran. He knows what he needs to do with his body to repair himself. But again, I'm not panicking. I'm not worried. I start to panic. I'm in full panic mode if we get to like August 10th, August 12th, and he's still not here. You start to worry if you get, I will start to worry a week from now, August 1st. If another week goes by here and we're sitting here next Wednesday talking about Reddick still holding out, then I would start to get worried. I would start to panic if he is still not there, like after their first preseason game against the Commanders, August 10th. If he's still not there, August 10th, August 12th, then you start to panic because then you seriously question, okay, game shape, learning the playbook, building chemistry with the teammates. You then start to wonder how it's actually affecting the locker room, if it's affecting the locker room at all. Like, are the guys up front really going to be, maybe I'm reading into it too much, but are the guys up front all of a sudden he's just going to walk out there and be like, oh, look at me, I'm here now, I'm committed. So then it kind of gets interesting there from that perspective, but we're still a little ways away from Reddick holding out for another 3 weeks or so. That would be pretty far down the road. Salah also talked again about Rodgers and his ability to still play at a high level. And his ability to be a leader. And I find this funny because I thought Rodgers was a really bad person. I thought Rodgers was not a team-first guy, not a good player, not a good locker room guy when he went to Egypt for 2 meaningless practices in June. So here was Salah on Rodgers and his leadership and everything else he brings, and just kind of, again, shown to the media about really how bad a teammate of Aaron Rodgers really is.
We spoke to Garrett and Quentin yesterday, and they talked about how Aaron sets the standard. Like here, just kind of, can you touch on that a little bit and just kind of, how that is, just the progression of him setting the standard?
For sure. He's as a quarterback, he is a vocal leader. He's a guy that everybody looks to for leadership on the football field. But Aaron's fantastic. His personality, I've said it before, he's an unbelievable teammate. His wealth of knowledge and his understanding of football, makes him pretty much another coach on the football field. And so when he speaks, our guys listen.
How have you seen the other players just kind of fall in line with that?
I guess you'd be silly not to. The guy's he's one of the more accomplished players in the history of football, and if he has a nugget to give you, if I was a young guy, I'd write it down pretty in my notebook, and I'd remember it for the rest of my life.
So, just talking about his leadership and stuff like that, how he's another coach. He said the same things or around the same things last training camp. And again, just outlining that this whole media narrative that Rodgers is some bad teammate taking the largest pay cut in history of sports before Jalen Brunson did to the Knicks this year is just a complete false narrative that the media likes to spin up. Couple other notes from Salah that I wanted to discuss here quickly. Again, as I talked about, Moses and AVT, they'll return to team drill soon. And JBC, Jarek Bernard-Converse, has moved to corner after playing safety last year. So was kind of that cornerback safety hybrid when the Jets drafted him last year. Didn't play a ton, right? Was hurt a little bit. Played safety, played corner. Could do a little bit of both. Now they're kind of shifting him exactly to corner. So it feels like Bernard-Converse went from safety to corner and Isaiah Oliver went from corner to safety. So they kind of switch places there. So another guy depth-wise there at corner in JBC. Now, as for Rodgers, this was the big one coming back from Egypt. You already kind of heard some of his takeaways on the Part of My Take podcast with Big Cat and all those guys over at Barstool. He talked about just the Egypt trip, which was interesting, kind of funny. He said that, mentioned how riding camels and seeing the pyramids were his highlights of his trip. He's wanted to go to Egypt for a very long time. He originally scheduled it based off of last year's minicamp schedule, which if you remember, the Jets, they actually stopped minicamp completely last year because they had to report to training camp early for the Hall of Fame game. So he saw the schedule last year, wasn't the same schedule as this year, tried to move it around, tried to change things, couldn't happen. So missed those 2 days. Rodgers again talked about how it's not like it used to be minicamp. It's just glorified OTAs. And that's the way I view it is, would you rather him go to 2 days of mandatory minicamp, or would you rather him skip 10 OTA practices and then go to the 2 days of mandatory minicamp, or 10 OTA practices and skip 2 mandatory minicamps? Minicamp is basically just an extension of OTAs. He went to 10 of the 12 practices. It's blown out of proportion. It's stupid, and it's crazy that we're still talking about this a month and a half later on July 24th, but that's what this stupid NFL and these stupid Jets haters in the media do, and we have to react because it gives us, it's because it's ridiculous, and Rodgers discussed it as well. So another thing I wanted to actually play a clip for was Rodgers' expectations for the season. He said the goal is New Orleans, which is where the Super Bowl will take place. Feels the Jets are one of the 8 to 12 teams that can win the Super Bowl. Listen in.
How realistic a goal is New Orleans for this team?
It has to be the goal. The beauty is every single year there's 8 to 12 teams, maybe. Probably less, but 8 to 12 teams that could actually do it. And we're one of those 8 to 12.
So that was some of his other comments on expectations, Super Bowl, and how good this team could be. Also talked about one of the biggest improvements to this roster was the offensive line, which is, of course, huge for him, protecting him up front. And then similar to last year, says it again this year, Garrett Wilson, give him legitimate cornerback play. he could be one of the best receivers in football. So that was some of the takeaways from Rodgers. The quote about the camels and the pyramids is funny. It's just, that's Aaron Rodgers for you. Kind of goes off the grid sometimes, but hey, it is what it is. As long as he's winning games in the football field, he can go to Egypt whenever he wants. Moving on now to Sauce Gardner. Doesn't really care about the cornerback rankings, calling him overrated. That those ESPN Plus rankings, league executive, coaches, scouts, they called him, one of the scouts or one of the anonymous executives or scouts, one of them called him overrated, said he's too handsy. Sauce kind of said, if it was my rookie year, I might worry about it. I don't care about it now. And said that there's never been a receiver that's told him he's been handsy. That's the way he plays his game. He's clean. If he was handsy, he'd get penalties called on him. And please don't give me the refs are biased in the Jets' favor, because that is complete nonsense. Believe me, if Sauce was holding, refs would call it. So that's just simply not true from what some of those people said. Feels the top 5 defense isn't good enough. They set themselves to a higher standard, and Rodgers sets the standard that everybody follows. So I'll play 2 clips here, one from Sauce and then the other one from Quincy Williams. He also feels the same about Rodgers coaching everybody up, being a guy in the locker room that guys look up to, work ethic, all that stuff. So here's the first clip from Sauce, and then we'll play the clip from Quincy Williams. Both similar, but discussing Rodgers and how he's been in the locker room.
So we talked to Quentin and Garrett, and they talked about how Aaron sets the standard here. Just talk about, from your perspective, how has Aaron set the standard for you and some of the rest of your teammates?
Oh man, he definitely does. You know, just watching him and how he attacked the day. You know, it's just something as little as him just picking different people to just have lunch with, have breakfast with. You know, when he come in the building, just little things like that. It's just how you think, like, man, he really a great dude. And football, football is football. You know, he's been around a while and he's played for another team, and so he know how things should be ran. And you know, he's a leader. You know, when he's in the building, you know, he have a standard, and that's the standard we follow. And it's not just that; his standard aligns with the standard that Coach Salah has set. So we just all on the same page, and we understand that the best teams are the player-led teams, and you know, Aaron is a true leader.
So that was Sauce on Rodgers. And here was Quincy Williams on Rodgers.
How much are you looking forward to getting back to going against Aaron, and how much he helps the defense progress?
Oh, I'm very excited. One thing about Aaron, bro, he don't mind stopping in the middle of practice and things like that. Like, hey, let me talk to you real quick. Let me show you the reason why I threw that. Let me also work with you on this. So let's be honest, he's a gold jacket type quarterback. So anything he say, I'm taking into consideration on my game, and then it also helps me during the game. It helps us during the game time. Far as like, all right, if Aaron's seen this, I know for a fact these quarterbacks gonna see it too, so it makes us better also.
So again, Rodgers, just the kind of effect, the trickle down, having a great quarterback not only does it make him better, it makes the defense better as well. So those are just a couple quotes on Rodgers, Salah on the Reddick situation, Rodgers himself, and that'll do it for today's Day 1 training camp recap episode. Once again, SeatGeek, head on over there, click the link in the description down below to download the SeatGeek mobile app, and at checkout, use promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your purchase. And Huga House, get yourself some of the same swag that Aaron Rodgers is wearing. Aaron Rodgers was wearing yesterday at the camp. Shane Gillis, Shohei Ohtani, all those great athletes and celebrities. Use promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase at Huga House. Get yourself a vintage-inspired Huga House hat. So that'll do it for today's Day 1 training camp recap. Appreciate all of you tuning in. For those of you on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow with my in-person takeaways from One Jets Drive, and stay tuned for that. That'll be day number 2. Love these videos. These are some of my favorite videos. These are my favorite videos to make throughout the year, except game previews are, of course, my favorite. I love game previews, and I also, of course, in-season videos are always a lot of fun, but minus the in-season, these are my favorite videos to make. Love training camp, love this time of year, so go Jets. I'll be back tomorrow with my in-person takeaways. Stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. JETS, 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 Jets.